Welcome in, everybody. Thanks so much for giving us your precious time as we jump in to Three Guys Before the Game. This is episode 477. Title of the show is Camp Confidential. Our Three Guys Before the Game internal embedded reporters are inside the deepest recesses of Mountaineer football.
They are?
No, but I thought it sounded kind of neat. We've got them wired.
I don't even know who the backup tackles are.
Oh, yeah. It's coming. Nick Malone, kid over from the high school.
See,
Malone got a nice mention this week.
Yeah, he did on the Brown Mention Index. Nick Malone, former walk-on turned scholarship. They're liking him. Matt Moore said that he has emerged having playing good football. So he's coming in as a backup at the tackle.
Yeah.
That's nice to see.
So this is going to be a good podcast. You mentioned backup left. We went right into offensive line. We're 4 seconds into this.
Backup left tackle.
Offensive line.
That's
I don't even know who the backup corners are.
Fluid. They're efforting. Efforting at this point. Beanie Bishop, in all likelihood, newcomer Beanie Bishop will get a start.
Leading the defensive side of the Brown Mention Index.
Beanie's getting loud. Yeah. B squared. We just call him B squared in the industry. Away we go. Coming up, new stuff from Neil Brown, old stuff from Don Nehlen. Just to clarify, Three Guys Before the Game is brought to us by the Burdett Camping Center. They happen to be the only warranty RV dealer that lasts forever in the state of West Virginia. Visit them at burdettcamping.com. And right now, all of their 2022 fifth wheels, $3,000 under invoice. Fifth wheels, $3,000 under invoice, all their 2022 models at Burdett Camping. You should really check that out. Three Guys brought to us by the fine folks at Gomart. Go for good times. Go for Gomart. I don't have to tell you that it's almost time to kick off the Mountaineer football season. And Gomart and WVU giving away the ultimate Mountaineer experience. This prize package includes walking the man trip with the Mountaineer football team, exclusive game day tickets, limited edition Gomart and WVU apparel. Enter for your chance to win by scanning the QR code at your local Gomart. So go into Gomart, take your phone out, and scan the QR code. Visit Gomart.com for more details. And don't forget, get that reward card because that gets you a bunch of stuff.
Get money off your Reese's while you're in there, too.
When we do textual healing, there's new information on Reese's.
Ooh.
New information for you, designed for you. Someone specifically wrote it to you.
Excellent. Can't wait.
Three Guys also brought to us by Comax Business Systems, keeping West Virginia's business data safe, secure, and efficient for 25 years. You need a phone system, digital phone system, business owner, whether you have one line or 1,000 lines, from 1 to 1,000, they'll come in, give you a free estimate as to what they can do for you, competitively priced. Besides that, they'll manage your IT services. I've gotten 2 letters in the last 2 days at my home from companies who I do business with that have had their IT infiltrated. Big, like one big insurance company and one big bank here in the great state of West Virginia.
Really?
And now they go like, well, because this happened, we're going to let you have a free year of this thing where they monitor to see if anyone's got your data and tries to open up credit accounts and banking accounts and all that kind of stuff. So, like, we tell you, this is real. It's real. Comax also provides that service for you. They'll come into your business, and they'll let you know where you're safe and where you're not.
Hey, Tony, on
safe.
that, just this week, the legislature in special session allocated $45 million to Marshall University for their cybersecurity program. Going to build a building there, and they got a degree, and they're going to have a master's degree in cybersecurity. It is one of the skills in cybersecurity, one of the fastest growing professions in the country.
Makes sense.
In the country. So Marshall is about to become it already is more of a U.S. leader in producing graduates who have skills in cybersecurity.
Tell you what, man, we're building a little niche, aren't we? You got WV with the forensics.
Right.
Marshall will do cyber. FBI Identification Center, all the biometrics that are going on there.
And Pierpont Community Technical College in airplane
Aeronautics. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's huge.
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 Anything else you need to know from the special session?
No, I'm pretty good on that.
All right.
Pretty good on that.
Anything on the personal
Well,
property
yeah, I have a
tax?
question on the personal property tax at some point.
Well, if you want to get into it, and this is not a political show, I just want to understand why you're so opposed to the Inflation Reduction Act.
I didn't say I was. If you're listening to the show.
No, I listened. I mean, you just went straight up against the senator. Just like two rams. Button your heads together there. I say it works. I say it doesn't. I say it works. I say, taken aback a little bit by that. So Hoppy's probably in a cantankerous mood.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that. It's been said about me.
Yeah. Some say that you've been under a rock for a long period of
I
time.
got that today. I've been under a rock for 7 years. There were some others, too, that had a language even on this podcast,
Yeah, we're clean.
we should not use.
Yeah, we're clean. Three guys also brought to us by Lou Wendell Marine Sales, single largest pontoon boat dealer in the state of West Virginia. They sell the Avalon pontoon boats manufactured by Avalon. And let's face it, 4+ decades family-owned. Lou Wendell Marine Sales, they are the premier pontoon boat dealer in the state of West Virginia. And for those of you who are watching, wouldn't that look like that? Wouldn't that be kind of neat?
There's Brad.
Wouldn't that be kind of neat on that thing? Like, you know, the old pontoon, like old school pontoon are kind of like those old silver RVs, you know, those old silver, the Airstreams, right? That's how some are. I mean, they can't. But this thing, that thing looks like something James Bond to be going.
Oh, they're nice. They're nice.
They're
Now.
real
There's a
nice.
lot going on there.
Yeah.
Plus a little juice behind it. You can tube.
Huh?
Yeah, you can tube behind that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
You have a two-person tube?
4.
4?
A lot of kids. A lot of kids in the extended family that use the.
Okay. So you
use
put
it.
4 on one, 4 on it.
Yeah, that's there. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. Just drag them around. Drag them around the lake.
You got to be careful. Anyway, ready to do some football?
Then
Let's
with it.
get-
I mean,
I'm sure the listeners are ready for us to do some football.
yeah. After that.
Yeah. Let's jump in here. Neil Brown talking with media members this week. We're into one full week has been completed. The Mountaineers off on Thursday, resume Friday, closed scrimmage, Saturday night under the lights.
I'll get ready for PSU.
Yeah. Neil also said yesterday, and I kind of knew this, we talked about this a little bit, but the team is going to practice for the rest of this season, not just in fall camp, rest of the season in the morning. We talked about that last show, but he explained why in detail, why they're going to do that. It makes all kinds of sense. And we'll see how it all shakes out. Meanwhile, let's do some player stuff now. Everyone wants to know who's the QB, who's the QB, who's the QB, and battle is on. So Neil Brown, front and center on the quarterback situation. What's a breakdown so far of what he has seen?
Not necessarily about who's ahead and who's not. Just starting with Nico, Nico making growth as a redshirt freshman. Yesterday, if about halfway through practice, was probably as poor decision making as he's made. And then he was able to correct it, which I think is a sign of mental toughness. And he went a stretch there again where he made some bad decisions, and then 4 out of his next 6 plays were explosive plays. And so to see him kind of take an ass chewing and be able to bounce back and answer, I was really encouraged with that. We did a lot of red zone work today, and it was a little bit of ebb and flow with him, but he made 2 really big-time plays. And so encouraged, we got to clean up some of those decisions, but encouraged with how he handled adversity, because as coaches, you try to create that. That kind of happened naturally yesterday, but you try to create it. I think Garrett had a couple big runs today in a team period. We're not tackling those guys, but he had a couple big runs. And then he made really a tight throw down in the red zone. And so we're continuing to rotate those guys, and we'll do it, when we're going to name a starter. I don't really have an answer for you. I know y'all don't like that, but I don't really have an answer for that. But we're continuing. They each are getting reps. Sean Boyle had his best day yesterday too. I should say that. And he can really run. And I think he's hit 20 miles per hour, and he's getting better.
There you go.
So we're left to interpret what the coach has said, Brad. And if I were to interpret something from that, and I think knowing how Neil Brown tries to be as honest as is practical, that what I heard there was that Nico Marchiol has a long way to go and, made some obviously big mistakes, but they want to end on a positive note and say they saw improvement. And almost like the lack of mention of Garrett Green is a good thing for Garrett Green because he didn't mention mistakes made. So under the Neil Brown index, I would actually put Garrett Green ahead of Nico Marchiol.
We are right smack in camp time, aren't we? Just interpreting what Neil said, what he didn't say. Did he say this? Did he say? Here's the bottom line. Both those guys are going to have to play at some point this season, I would think, right? We've seen that before. So I think the question is the same for both of them, regardless of who it is. But let's take it from a Garrett Green perspective first. He's going to be able to run the football. And that's going to help the offense significantly, right? Not just in the ability with run-pass offense to run-pass option to freeze some defenders and open up some things, but just to get on the edge, but also just when the play breaks down. That's what you really haven't had over the last couple quarterbacks is their just inability to take off when it was given to them. That's going to put a different kind of pressure on the defense. So I think that's there. I think that should lead to some more creativity offensively, allow those offensive coaches to expand the playbook a little bit to mix some things in. The question just comes down to the throwing of the football, right? Because you can see the obvious part that Garrett brings to it. The questions just remain offensively is, regardless of the two of them, but start with Garrett, who can throw the ball most effectively without turning it over to then allow the running part of what they do to step forth? So that's what we have to remember. It's very easy to say, oh, you've got a running quarterback now things will be totally different. But you've, in fairness, have two quarterbacks that can't throw it as well as the two guys you've had previously, at least to this point. Now, maybe that changes when you get into the season. Maybe Garrett with more reps becomes more of a thrower. But he sat in this exact chair and said that's what he's working on, right? That's the part of his game that he knows he needs to push forward. If he's got to throw the ball to win, can he do that? And those are his words when he sat here.
Because if he can't throw the ball effectively, defenses will figure that out very, very quickly and just say, we don't think you can beat us throwing.
Yeah, well, here's 9 in the box. Go beat us throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, now there's some other pieces to that, but that to me, it's not as if there's always questions about the quarterback. There has been since Will Grier, right? Well, what don't they do? What don't they do? What don't they do? You're still kind of in that wait-and-see mode with these quarterbacks until you see how far they've developed from last year. It's just a different question than you've been asking the last couple of years when you would say, why doesn't Jared Deggy keep it and run? Why doesn't JT Daniels ever keep it and run? But they threw the ball, right? You knew you could throw the ball. That's the question coming into this season. I think the running game will be fine. I do think you add a different element there.
And guys, not only and don't put all the pressure on Garrett Green or Nico Marchiol. How about guys making plays? Yeah. What have we talked about for several years now? The inconsistency at wide receiver, inability to make a big play. So help a guy out.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. No question. Which I think you're going to get to that. I think when we talk about individuals, there's one that comes up when Neil's talking that I think is going to be critical to this offense.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Bottom line is to the question, who's going to be the starting quarterback? The starting quarterback will be, drum roll, which of the two players the coaches think have the best chance of leading the team to a win? Plain and simple. They'll look at the two. That's not to say that one can't lead them to a win. It's which one of them gives us a better chance to lead us to a win. And to Brad's point, history says there's a very good chance that both will play. It's almost never that we see a quarterback start game one, go through all 12 games, and play every snap. Almost doesn't happen. So which of these guys in camp gets the trust of the offensive staff enough to say, this guy either will make plays to let us win or won't make game-losing plays to make us lose. That's what it comes down to.
How about this? Are you going to take Nico Marchiol and have him start at Happy Valley at night? I think that's an unwinnable. That to me is untenable. That's not speaking to his skill level or what he can be. I just think that would put somebody in an untenable situation.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to just go back to what I just said. Okay, which guy gives us a better chance to win Saturday night under the lights at Penn State? They just make that decision. Which one of them is? Which one of the two? It doesn't matter to us. Which one of the two gives us the better chance? That's what it comes down to. If they think it's Mark Ewell, then it'll be Mark Ewell. If they think it's Garrett Green, it'll be Garrett Green. That's all it is. Does anyone know that this staff has to win this season more than the staff? No one. No one knows more than they do that they have to win this season. And they'll do everything they think to put them in the best possible position.
By the way, I got a complaint today.
Stunner.
Yeah. I actually got a lot of complaints. But here's a complaint I got today. Is I wrote a promo for our coverage. And in the promo for our coverage, I said, Neil Brown's job is on the line. And the complaint was they didn't think I should say that. They thought that was, provocative, or I should be more pro-Mountaineer. And I thought about it briefly, and I thought, no, that is a story, if not the story this season. I don't know how the team does. That is an undeniable story of the season. And Neil Brown knows it. Ren Baker knows it. We all know it.
Yeah. Probably doesn't need to be reminded of it, but yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I'm not trying to remind him of it. I don't think he's sitting around listening to Talk Line.
Oh, he's probably driving in. He probably catches your show. I mean, it's the #1 rated show.
No, he's not. He's thinking. He's like. Anyway.
Why do you keep turning your mic off?
Why do you turn me off? Why do you always turn me off like that?
You're the one that always turns it.
Be a part of the show, and you always turn me off. You said something a minute ago about not losing the game or not turning it over, and we talk so often about that. How many coaches say, more teams lose games than teams win games, the whole thing. And that's one part of Garrett's game. He's got to get cleaned up, right? Neil said it. Garrett has said it. Last year, there were only 6 Power 5 teams with a worse turnover margin than West Virginia.
Excuse me?
Only 6 Power 5 teams with a worse turnover margin. Now, hold on.
That's a good thing.
There's only 5 if Stanford doesn't count as a Power 5 anymore. I don't know what their status
is.
They might have to not
those
be
poor buddies.
Power
Why
5.
would you have to take a shot at them? They're in a wake situation now. You don't need to rub it in on their face. They know where they are.
They may not be Power 5 soon, right?
But they were last year. They were last year.
Just stating a fact. So 6. Now that's two-pronged. That's one, you can't turn it over, but you've got to do a better job defensively at taking the ball away, right? So there's 2 parts to that. But that's a massive part of this team as you look for areas of improvement. That's clearly got to improve.
How many interceptions did they have last year? I can tell you.
Okay, go
Check
ahead.
it.
Go ahead if you got it.
4.
You mean how many they gained?
Only picked off 4 balls? Is that what you're saying?
That's what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but to Brad's point,
Is that right, Brad?
When I said it's a good thing,
Efforting.
when I said it's a good thing that they were only in the 6 teams, statistically, you're right, 4 interceptions all year, which is really terrible. That's 1 every 3 games. Statistically, if you have a really bad turnover margin one year, to your point about getting 15% better, it does that. Historically, that's what it does. You'll be better than you were for the simple fact that it's really hard to be worse than you were.
Yeah. Okay.
Plain and simple.
Okay.
Right?
6 fumbles recovered, so only 10 turnovers gained. Less than 1 a game. Obviously has to get better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, another Neil bite from his presser earlier this week, and that is, besides the quarterbacks, who are some of the players that have stood out to him so far?
I think Anthony Wilson's making a big jump to be ready to play. He's one. At corner, I think Jacoby Spells has really looked good through 7 practices. And my expectation was for him to be better, and he's made plays. And he's not only made plays on defense but special teams. Beanie Bishop he's pushing, and he's got experience, but he's got personality. He's got good energy, and he's consistent. And so he's been just from having him in the room, and then going, just talking about some guys. Mike Lockhart made a big-time play today. I think he's starting to separate himself there at that position. And then Eddie Vestorinian's had a nice camp. As far as the will linebacker, we'll wait till we get through Saturday, because I think Saturday is going to be the big test there. At tight end, Cole Taylor and Traylon Davis both have separated themselves. Devin Carter continues to do really good things. And I think that, as far as just talking about E.J. Horton, made a couple plays downfield today, and so he's given himself an opportunity to play. And then, Jaheim White, he didn't finish practice today, but given opportunities 11 on 11, he's made big plays.
All right, there you go. Heisman contender. Jaheim White gets a
front runner.
gets a mention. Brad was on that very early on. So he hit you there with several defensive players, and as we said, just by the nature of how statistics work, that group only forced 10 turnovers all of last year, as you just heard. 6 recoveries on fumble and 4 off of interceptions. It's 10. I mean, if you just go up 15, 16 turnovers, can you get 1+ a game? Just worlds of difference.
Critical. So let's stay on the defense for a second. We know that defensive back end has to just get massively better than what it was last year. And Beanie Bishop's a guy that's been mentioned a bunch, not just by Neil Brown, but from others throughout this camp. And that's a guy, Hoppy, that comes in, played at Western Kentucky, played at Minnesota last year. Comes in, guys, for what it's worth, his PFF grade last year with Minnesota, their highest graded defensive player was Beanie Bishop. So that's a guy you would expect. Now, it has to translate, right? You like to say that a lot. It's got to translate.
But you have a better chance, don't you, when he's been in a Power 5?
It's a Power 5 guy that played in a big league that you're bringing in. Now, he's got to stay injury-free. He's got to have a good year. There's all the disclaimers we can give, but there's some comfort in that going, okay, you've seen the guy play pretty well. Now can he step up and replicate that and go up a notch here at West Virginia? That would be massive.
I would call Beanie Bishop a mature player. I mean, I think I was checking, he was at Western Kentucky, it says, for 4 years, at Minnesota for a year.
Yeah.
So is this his
COVID
sixth
year?
Year? He's played, Tony, in 49 games.
Which isn't a ton over the course of 5 years.
49 games is a lot of games to have played in this new world. So he's played a lot of games. But, again, Brad, like you said, the guy's played a lot of football. There isn't a lot he hasn't seen. Now, he's got to learn something new. He's in a different system. But if you learned it at Minnesota, then you ought to be able to learn whatever they're doing here, and he ought to be a good addition.
Jacoby Spells, a guy that you heard last year, right? People would say, hey, Jacoby Spells has a shot. Now he's going to make some mistakes last year because he was young. Okay, how far up has he stepped? So that's encouraging that he's a guy that's specifically mentioned
Anthony
on the defensive
Wilson.
side. Yeah, those defensive backs you're hearing that there's multiple guys back there. That would be a start.
Yes.
Quite frankly, that would be a start to just be able to rotate guys in to keep them fresh on that back end. That helps significantly.
He also gave a shout-out to Mike Lockhart, transfer from Georgia Tech, who played backup minutes, snaps last season. And, okay, good. So is he emerging and he's identifying, okay, we got a guy that can stand on top of the center's head? Okay, that's another good piece.
I keep going back to there were so many points last year when that defense couldn't have looked worse, right? The back end's getting torched. Offenses are doing whatever they want. And yet, think about it, guys. You're a play away in 2 different games from winning 7 games against a really difficult schedule with a defense that gave up 30-plus points a game and really struggled at times. That has to get better.
So you're saying they were close? Are you saying they were close last year?
Yeah, I think you just said that.
I just said that. I mean, I can go find 4 or 5 plays from the Pitt game that if you give us one, give me one of those to change, West Virginia wins. You just change that last roughing penalty, targeting penalty by Taj Olsen at the end of the Kansas game. I think you win that game because they're about ready to kick a 50-plus yard field goal to try and, tie the game there? Mm-hmm. So that's 2 plays from 2 different games. And again, I know they won some games where they caught some breaks too. So you would argue but you don't even need to counterpoint me because I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, oh, they won some games where a couple were. Yeah. Point being, it wasn't as, to me, you were closer. So if that defense, and I know this is the sliding scale, do I think they'll be better? Yes, I think they're better. All right. How much better? If we take your,
we've said 10%, 10 or 15%.
Take your 10 or 15% better, and you get 10 or 15% more turnovers, that leads to you being 10 or 15% more better. I think you're around it. I think you're right around it again. If the expectation is for this team, can they get to 7, get back into a bowl game, and continue moving forward with this particular group, that seems reasonable to me against what's a very tough schedule. I realize. Hold on, one more player to mention there. Can we flip to the offense for just a second?
Sure.
I think E.J. Horton there that you heard mentioned. I think he's going to play a critical part in this offense. The ability to get somebody past the defense to take the top off, to use the cliche, is critical for this group. You just did not have that last year. I don't know when the last time was that you did have it, where you had a legitimate deep threat and the ability to get that deep threat the ball and back some of that safety play off. That's just massive.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to create some space in the middle of the field.
Yeah. So practice Friday, scrimmage Saturday, off Sunday, and then off we go. And school starts next week, 16th. But they're going to keep going with camp after school starts for a couple of days. Since they're practicing in the mornings, they don't have to change anything. They're going to practice mornings throughout the year. Before we jump into textual healing, any other thing there for the good of the order? You all good?
Good
all
for
good.
now.
All good.
We'll get into more
Developing stories there with those players.
Yeah.
To me, that's the part now of camp to watch and listen to is what players continue to emerge. I mean, the quarterback thing is going to go right down to the couple days before the Penn State game before Nehlen announces it. It's those other pieces that mix in there, specifically offensively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're getting to the point. After next week is over, then they'll hone in on here's our two deep, and these are the guys who are going to get the majority of the reps going into the Penn State game. All right, conference news. Obviously, a lot in the course of 6 days since last Friday's absolute implosion happened, and that is that the ACC's dance with Stanford and Cal, and I guess to a lesser extent SMU, at this moment, seems to have hit a block, and there does not seem to be agreement among the presidents of the ACC as to what they should do. And in all likelihood, and this is always the one that'll come back and bite you in the butt, but in all likelihood, for right now, that doesn't seem as though it's going to happen. So that's that. So much of this stuff goes on, and I kind of put in perspective, but I forgot. When the history book is written about the Pac-12 conference and its demise, which is just absolutely historic, I forgot that in 2010, they had a chance to take 6 Big 12 schools.
Yeah.
And they
Texas, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, they were all flirting around
Texas
there.
Tech, yeah. And they didn't do it.
Ooh.
Did not do it. So historically, that will always be looked at like they could have eliminated the Big 12, but instead, 13 years later, the Big 12, along with some assistance from the Big 10, eliminated the Pac-12 conference. So I thought that was pretty doggone significant.
Couple wild things that came out here in the last 24 hours about this conference story that kind of caught my attention. One is Notre Dame.
Yes, I was just reading that.
Being the school that is pushing the ACC
Yeah,
for the two academic things, and you go,
don't you just want
okay, hold on just a second here. Let me ask a question. These are football decisions that are being made.
Right.
Football decisions
Football
being
decisions.
made. Notre Dame, which remains independent, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
in
correct,
football.
sir.
They are independent.
They are not part of the football part of the ACC.
They have the same vote as the other ACC members in a football decision.
See, they shouldn't.
They shouldn't. Huh? What? Either in or out.
That's like, you know what that's like? That's
what
like,
are we
Brad,
doing?
You're trying to decide on a family vacation. You invite your neighbor over
yeah,
and say,
exactly.
where do you think we should go on family vacation? I mean,
Yeah, because sometimes the neighbor mows my yard when I'm out of town.
Well,
so
in that case,
right?
but I mean, seriously, how does Notre Dame's pushing for Stanford and Cal to be in football? Like, wait a minute, what? But you're not in football.
To me, what that is, it's the weirdness of college sports that I talk about in here all the time about the decision-making process is so much harder in real life than it is for those of us up here yapping about it or the fans listening who could come up with 1,000 different ways to make this right? But the idea is easy. It's the execution. This is one of those execution things. Well, they got to let Notre Dame have a vote so that they may someday join the conference, but they are in all of our other sports, and all the other sports matter, but then you say they don't matter because you're making football-only decisions that Notre Dame's involved in, even though they're not playing football with you.
Wouldn't you like to be in that meeting, be able to say, that's great, we're going to add Stanford and Cal and Notre Dame. If you come in, we'll add them.
Yeah, is that right? You like Stanford and Cal that you want to join with them? You in?
Yeah, that'd be a good meeting.
That would be good.
It's just a bizarre
situation. What you want to say. You know what they internally want to say. Some of those schools want to say, shut the up.
They want Al Pacino.
Yeah, they do want Al Pacino of them. Courtroom scene, hearing scene of Son of a Woman. You can look that one up.
All right, so that's one. Just as if you needed another footnote to how weird college sports can be. There's a weird one, Hoppy. Number 2, how say hello to SMU down in Dallas. SMU must have sidewalks paved with dollars or just actual gold. Did you hear their deal?
200.
They're offering to join the ACC and not take a revenue distribution for 5 to 7 years.
It's like $200 million worth, right?
Excuse me? Yeah, 7 years times $30 million a year, $210 million.
Yeah.
They want in so badly.
Oh, yeah.
5 to 7 years now, we're good. That's wild.
Yeah, that's wild.
When things are all about the money, here's a school that wants in so badly to the ACC or a Power 4, 5, 6, however many power leagues there are anymore. No revenue distribution. Hello.
Incredible.
So 2 wild stories.
It is amazing when you step back and you look at all of this, and the ACC right now is squirming. They're not happy. They're unsettled internally as to what they're going to do. They have a deadline of next week. If a school is going to bolt, they have to notify by next week on the 15th of August. They do not think at this time that anything is going to happen, that no one is going to say, hey, we're out, because they've got nowhere to go unless there is some absolute beautifully stealth negotiations going on and all of a sudden, more happens. But right now it looks as though they're just going to sit there and they're unsettled, they're uncomfortable, they're disjointed, which to me makes it very interesting because they were the leader in the clubhouse of causing all this to happen to begin with. They're the ones that went and got Syracuse and Pitt, and before that, Miami and Virginia Tech. Like, it was them. And everyone was lauding John Swofford. Oh, what a visionary. Oh, what a chess player. Oh, what a great, great, wonderful move to what he's done for the ACC. And then they sign this deal that's an absolute anvil around their throat that they cannot release until 2037. He was heralded for this. Now they can't run fast enough away from it. It's just interesting how this whole thing is just so badly managed, badly handled. The Pac-12, because of Larry Scott and George Kliavkoff, whatever his name is, I mean, just detonated this thing because of their lack. And the presidents, I mean, it's the presidents that tell the commissioner what to do. Commissioner can lead and suggest, but it's the arrogance of those presidents in the Pac-12 in 2010 because they didn't want to dirty themselves with the Texas Techs of the world, and they didn't want to dirty themselves with the Oklahoma States of the world because they were not premier academic institutions, Hoppy, and as a result of being a Pac-12 academic institution, we don't want to represent with them, and as a result now they're absolutely in a crap fest.
I think one of the mistakes we make in talking about this, with all due respect, is to assume that some of the people making the decisions at the collegiate level are brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think, how do I say this? I don't think they're launching the space shuttle, you know? I mean, I think if you're putting together the space shuttle and you're launching it or making a flight to the moon, I think that those are really brilliant people who are going over and over things and testing and making sure that the thing works exactly right. All these components, tens of millions. I don't think it's the same thing. I think it's sometimes, frankly, with all due respect, it's people get together and emotions kick in and like, oh, I heard from this guy, and they're not necessarily making the best decisions.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
And the fear of missing out on the extra millions of dollars is driving a lot of that. That FOMO, that fear of missing out is massive.
Yes.
Here's an interesting point real quick, and I know we won't spend the whole time here on conference realignment. I read an article last night, and I'm sorry, I can't remember where it came from. It was in a tweet. Alex Hickey, that used to work for Metro News here, retweeted it. So if you go find Alex's Twitter handle, he retweeted it and made a comment on it. But it was an interesting look into the mind or somebody's perspective on what the TV folks were thinking in this, because we keep saying, what are you doing with the, stop trying to make it all national. Every game is not national. There's a regional component to this. Knock it off. And this perspective was that the TV folks in the boardroom are looking at college football and not making the bet that a Washington State fan, now that they're not going to be in the big time football, will become a Washington fan. They don't care about that because we know that won't happen, right? And that's part of our argument that, like, regionalities are saying, what's the Washington State fan supposed to do? They're not going to just pick up following Washington or Oregon and start wearing purple or the green. They're just not going to do it. They're Washington State people. That's who they like. And they were saying that they think the TV folks are more looking at it like They don't even care about the Washington State fan. Who cares if they watch a game or not? But the guy and the son or the family that are New York Giant pro football fans and they're pro football NFL more than anything else will now look on a Saturday and see Ohio State and USC playing and know those brands and will say, now I'm going to tune in.
Yeah.
And my God, and that makes some sense. I can see where they think that.
An attraction.
The attraction.
That's a massive miscalculation on what this sport is if you're doing that, I think. Right? There are so many more opportunities for people to get involved in that than just trying to pick those games out. I think you're missing a huge opportunity there. Because here's the thing, Hop, and Alex pointed this out. This isn't my original thought. Alex pointed this out, and it makes some sense. It's similar to the thinking of add Rutgers to the Big Ten because people in New York City are close to Rutgers and they'll watch Rutgers when they just will not.
But I'm going to argue against myself and then against you because I think that I would be certain that TV has analytics and says Ohio State versus USC. That's a money maker. We can sell that. That's a national game. We can sell Washington State. I can't do anything with that.
Which is what I've said that before. That is what they're doing because local sales are becoming more and more difficult. Regional sales are more and more difficult to get. They're trying to have a national platform to get it in. But my point to you is, as caretakers of the industry, for presidents and athletic directors to acquiesce to that because they have to chase the TV money, that's a tough look there. That's hard to swallow that you sacrifice entire fan bases like Washington State in order to take the money so they can put more USC, Ohio State in the hopes that the NFL fan's going to come over that may or may not, or may be fleeting. But isn't it similar? I've used the NASCAR analogy before. Isn't that what NASCAR did in a way? Took a really successful regional sport.
Yes.
And tried to make it national. And you got me, the non-NASCAR fan for a stretch of 4 or 5 years when I would go to the Coca-Cola 600. And I'd have a blast. I had a great time at those things. Yeah. And I was into it. And I was going to the merchandise tent. And I was buying Dale Jr. hats. And I was sitting in the race and I was buying the headphones and I'm listening and I'm following it. And you had me until you didn't.
Right.
And then I said, you know what? I don't have time for this. I don't have time to fit another sport in. I'm out. And I walk away. That Giants fan can walk away so much easier than the 3 generations of Washington State fans that have been around that thing for 100 years.
Well, that's a good
you see
point.
what I'm saying?
Yes,
it's a short-term vision for what has been a long-term historical sport that I think somewhere along the line it's going to bite everybody in the ass when they come back and say, well, we've consolidated here, and those schools are out. What do those generations of fans do?
Yeah. Okay, good point.
That's my point.
All right, I see.
Took me a long time to get there.
No, but you got there.
One of these days, it'll probably go back that way.
How can it not?
Yeah, one of these days it will. Yeah, probably. When the dollars dry up on the big stuff, it'll do it. You ready to heal?
Yeah.
You ready to heal?
Yep.
Okay, let's heal. Do it. Textual Healing, our line is open 24/7 at 304-404-4083. 304-404-4083. For those of you watching on YouTube, take a look at our fancy new graphic. And also for those of you that are watching on YouTube, if you're liking what you're watching / hearing, we very rarely do this, but we do encourage you to subscribe to our 3 Guys Before the Game YouTube channel, and that way they'll let you know when the next episode of 3 Guys Before the Game is out. Our subscriptions are growing.
Oh, good.
Yeah, numbers are going up.
Thank you, everyone.
Also, I told El Senatore earlier this week, as we get ready this month on the 30th will be our 6th year of doing 3 Guys.
Really?
What day? 30?
August 30 of 2017 was our first ever show. August 30, 17.
6, was I involved in?
Who are you?
Yes.
Yeah, you were one of the 3.
Yes.
You were one of the initial 3 guys. Ringo. But we've eclipsed 4 million plays. So that means 4 million times someone in some form has hit play. Those aren't downloads. Those are actual plays.
That's audio only?
Audio only.
That's audio only.
That doesn't include the video views through the years. So it's 4 million times someone, Hoppy, has put their thumb down to listen to you. Pretty big accomplishment.
Again, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Three Guys Before the Game brought to us by the Burdett Camping Center. And right now, $10,000 off on an awesome Forest River travel trailer and toy hauler. $10,000 off. Check it out. Go to the website at burdettcamping.com. Plus $3,000 under invoice on all of their 2022 fifth wheels. Texter, hey, Three Guys. With Hoppy's new commentary comparing conference realignment to the Donner Party and cannibalism, what is the over-under for cannibalism references from now until episode 800? 1.5 seems good. Next texter came in and said, did anyone have Armageddon and cannibalism on their bingo card?
Probably not.
Probably not. Texter.
Or Donner Party, for that matter.
Wow, gentlemen, I never thought I would hear the story of the Donner Party on Three Guys. Hoppy did an excellent job of weaving that story into the conference Armageddon discussion. I'm looking forward to his next historical reference, maybe some connection between the Titanic and the Pac-12/4,
Yes.
CL in Clarksburg.
Absolutely.
CL's terrific.
It was a good story.
Well, I mean, think about it for a second. That is, and it's maybe not, it's not exactly analogous, obviously, but when faced with an unprecedented situation where it feels like, in the Donner Party, it was life or death, in conference affiliation, it feels like life or death. Will you survive and thrive, or will you wither on the vine? Then you make very tough decisions. You make decisions where you're going to like, well, got to leave somebody behind here.
I think you were right on it.
Well, spot on.
Because it's not only that, which schools did, right? And they left Washington State and and Cal and Stanford and Oregon State for dead, and they left. But also what then starts happening, as we talked, within the people across from the table that are seemingly safe.
Yeah.
And you start looking side-eyed at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And Florida State running their mouth that they need more money. And don't go Wake Forest. I don't care how you're looking at me. Stop looking at me like that. Don't care. We need more money than you.
I'll eat you.
Yeah.
That's what they'll say.
So I thought it was one of your better efforts, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, next week he's going to do Blitzen and Rudolph at the Donner Party. Next up, Scopes, Senator, and Dean. I was listening to Sportline on Saturday, podcast version, of course, when Scopes mentioned Don Nehlen's involvement with the move to the Big 12. I paused Sportsline, and I went back to the July 31st, 2023. The July 31st, 2023. No, what the hell?
2019.
July 31st of 2019. Three Guys podcast, and I listened to it again. I highly recommend every Three Guys listener to go back and again thank Coach Nehlen for his pivotal role in getting WVU to the Big 12. So we talked about this on a previous episode, or we talked about it on Sportsline. But anyway, so this is 3 minutes long. So I think that there's been some revisionist history that has gone on with how West Virginia got into the Big 12 conference. So the godfather of Mountaineer football, Don Nehlen, when he visited us in 2019, this is what he said as to how West Virginia made that move into the Big 12 conference. Let's play that.
I'm not sure you get enough credit for West Virginia's ability to jump on that life raft of the Big 12. I think first and foremost, it's the program you built that gave the reputation for West Virginia. But even more to the point, your conversations with Chuck Ninus at the time, what do you recall about that time when it was so chaotic that even people at the highest levels of this university didn't know what was going to happen to West Virginia's program? What do you remember about that whole time?
Well, to be honest, I'm pretty much the guy that got us in it.
Correct.
Well, Dr. Clements, our president, called me, and he said, Don, we want to get in the Big 12. And he said, Chuck Ninus is the guy. And he says, I understand you're great friends. I said, yep, because Ollie didn't know him very well. Jim didn't know him at all. Excuse me. And Chuck Ninus, I worked for him for 6 years. There was a president. There was a faculty rep, Chuck, myself. And Chuck Ninus, when I worked for him as the representative of the college football coaches, was the most knowledgeable guy in America. We got almost, Tony, when I came here, you signed the National Letter of Intent in May. In May. I mean, you recruited him, you lost him, you recruited him. I mean, there was some of the craziest rules. And Chuck started to bring some sanity to it. But anyhow, Jim says, Don, you got to call him. And, you know, like I say, Chuck and I, well, the reason a lot of those jobs,
That was him.
it was him
Yeah,
saying,
I
hey,
know.
you got to hire this guy in West Virginia. But anyhow, and he was a Wisconsin guy. But anyhow, I called him. I said, hey, Chuck. And he said, what do you want, Don? He said, do you want in the league? I said, yeah, we want in the league. He says, well, if you say that you can compete, I'll take you. But if I take you, you have to play next year. And he said, that's going to be a problem. You're going to have to pay some people off probably, but you're going to have to play. And he says, you're going to have to get to your governor and figure out a way to expand that airport so that when teams come in here, they can land. They don't want to go to Pittsburgh. I said, well, you know, Chuck, they can land in Bridgeport now, which is only a half hour up the road. He said, well, I want that airport expanded. So I called Clements and said, hey, here's the deal. He said, we'll do it. And so I called Chuck and says, the boss says we'll do it. And we got in. So that's how it went.
Oh.
There you go.
But that goes back to that is great. What a great summary by Don Nehlen of how simple it was, yet how big it was, guys. And Brad, Don Nehlen not only was a great coach here, Don Nehlen knew everybody. He knew everybody. He was very involved in the Coaches Association.
He was a
president. Knew everybody. Had great respect in the industry. I mean, he can call up Chuck. Hey, Chuck, we want to be in the Big 12. Okay, but you got to do. I mean, imagine that. Imagine that.
What do you want, Don?
What do you want, Don? You want in the league?
What do you want, Don?
You
In
want
some
in
ways, that feels like that conversation there was like from 1960, right?
Yeah.
Differently than now. That just it just
But
unfortunately.
that's how those guys rolled. They were 1960
I
guys.
know.
That's
and
why.
in a lot of ways that was easier and made more sense, and you could navigate a little easier than what you can now.
Texter points out that in that same podcast, this is a different texter, that Nehlen said that we're on our way to 4 16-team conferences, and they may not be associated with the NCAA. So Don, the prophet, Don Nehlen. Texter, just wanted to make sure that Brad knows that the Reese pumpkins are already on sale. I just enjoyed my first. So those are good. Good Reese cup
Great
Reese.
peanut butter to chocolate ratio in those.
Halloween stuff already out.
Well documented.
Texter, can we get the schedules listed in Eastern time and let the rest of them do the math?
Agree.
Be a good thing. Texter, you guys mentioned the bowl tie-ins on the Armageddon episode. Does the Rose Bowl now become a Big 10, Big 12 matchup with the demise of the Pac-12? It would seem to be a logical move. Mike and Myrtle, actually, via Buchanan. Actually, the Rose Bowl goes into the rotation in the college football playoff. So the Rose Bowl, as we all knew it, is going away.
Which was happening regardless of the Pac-12's demise.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Correct.
happening this
Correct.
year anyway.
Yes. Texter. Joel from Atlanta, I'd like to weigh in on the Senators' rant about the lesser producing schools getting even shares in Power 5. The Senator said it's all about the money. He's correct. But on the last show, he was blaming the TV partners. No, they pay directly to the conferences. If Rutger or Vanderbilt or Kansas, all due respect, are getting more than they deserve, that's on the conference. Florida State is right calling out the ACC because the ACC determines each school's payout. TV networks are not to blame for unequal revenue share issue. Senator, would you care to reply?
Yeah, thank you, Joel. I'm aware of how it's distributed. I did it for 20 years, but thank you for pointing that out. Here's my point. The TV networks
Man, I
are
don't know if you knew.
the TV networks are the issue because over 30 or 40 years, schools have become so dependent on those dollars, they've had to acquiesce to them making the decision. Internally, correct. It's on the conferences to decide how they start to divide that out. My point was twofold in that. Number one, those schools at that table, back to your Donner Party, are eventually going to start looking at the Vanderbilts and the Indiana footballs of the world and say, why are you getting the same money we are? Evidence, Florida State already starting that. The second part of that, the Big East went down that road. That's going to be a problem for some conferences. If you acquiesce to that's going to create some issues internally. People may have to go to that route, but that's going to create some issues.
Texter, the Money 20. This is a person that's advocating for a 20-team Big 12. A silhouette of Deion Sanders could be the logo that accompanies the new conference name. The Big 12 grabs UConn, Tech, Pitt, Miami to get to 20. Create 2 divisions, play round robin, winners meet in a title game. The Mid-East, you got UConn, Tech, Pitt, Miami, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Central Florida, Iowa State, Kansas, Kansas State. Midwest, the rest of them. It feels like a modern, out-of-the-box approach, yet preserves regional rivalries. Signed by Scott and Stafford. Thank you, Scott.
Did you see Chip Kelly, the UCLA coach, is coming around to my theory of everything's a non-conference game?
Did he say it?
Did you see what he threw out the other day?
What did he say?
Why aren't we not just having 2 divisions? FCS plays for their own national championship. Everybody else plays for their FBS plays for their own national championship. There's 2 national championships. Go about your business. No real conferences. Just play.
Probably because it
Get
makes
into a bigger playoff.
Probably because it makes too much sense.
Everything's non-conference.
Texter, Tony, I just got back from a conference in Salt Lake City. Great city, and the Utes have a beautiful stadium. While eating at Lake Effect, a really cool cocktail bar, we met 2 businessmen, a Lebanese guy and a Russian.
Is this a joke?
They were
Lebanese guy and a Russian, and
They
they're on
were-
a plane. There's only one parachute.
They were clearly regulars of the establishment, and they encouraged us to go to an Italian place down the street. We ended up at Michelangelo's on Main, a fantastic old-school Italian restaurant. I highly recommend it. However, now I'm wondering if the place they were talking about was actually Voltaire's Osteria. Oh, well, I had a great time in Salt Lake. Look forward to the opportunity to watch the world champion Mountaineers play in Rice-Eccles Stadium. There it is right there. Pretty stadium.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not for a game. When we were doing Hot Rod Hunley, our hotel was right near there. We walked over just to stick our head in there. Good to see everybody.
Been in their suites, Hoppy.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Not for a game.
Regarding
I was there in the summer once
What's
as well.
what's the school? Is it Utah or BYU? What's the number 1 there?
It depends.
Depends on who you ask.
It is an incredibly interesting situation. You've got the Church of Latter-day Saints, LDS. They're all obviously BYUers. And then you got the Utah people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like different. Yeah. This gentleman continues, regarding Hoppies get 15% better on defense idea. I thought the same thing back when Holgerson had Geno, Tavon Stedman and a horrible defense. A few years later, he marginally improved the defense and won 10 games in 20 and 16 with Skylar Howard, despite most fans recalling Howard to be a subpar QB. Texter, gentlemen, your opinion on the ESPN bet having a conflict of interest in college football. They decide what games are broadcast, what time and whether or not regional, and what regions are national now. Based on potential play by people like Brad, they could decide game placement, which could end up putting a BYU at 10 in the morning on Sunday at home, broadcast in the LA market. Of course, ESPN is too ethical to do that, and the Big 22 wouldn't stand for it.
Yeah, the ESPN bet thing's interesting. They've talked, and there's some other people in the industry that have brought up that potential conflict of interest that may exist. We'll have to see how that works out.
Thank you, for listening. Texter, Dame in Beaver County, Pennsylvania, by way of Wheeling. Hello! My wife, best friend, and his wife are all headed to Happy Valley for the big opener. Looking forward to some good times with friends, some nice breweries. No Hoppy-inspired beer, sadly. I simply wanted to know the perspective on the complex relationship with Paterno and Penn State football. The campus and the football program are a sight to behold, but it seems that there is still so much reverence for the man. His football successes are unrivaled, but his off-field competence clearly not. Understand this might not be read on the podcast. Thank you. Yeah, so what I think about that is this. You would have to absolutely change my mind to tell me and convince me that Joe Paterno knew what Jerry Sandusky was doing. My thought has always been that if Joe Paterno had any knowledge whatsoever of what Jerry Sandusky was doing, he would have been gone in an instant. However, I do subscribe to the theory that Joe Paterno was incredibly naive. And I'd like to maintain or think that he would never, ever have let that go on, but he was just clearly naive as to that happening.
What have they done? I'd like to, I'm not going to be there, but I mean, have they erased him? Have they put it in perspective? Have
Well, they took the statue down instantly.
Well, the statue's one thing, but I mean,
I don't know.
Do you just take him out?
Do you not say his name? I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay. Report back.
Thank you. Hey, guys. The Key West talk in the last episode brought me back to when I visited a few years ago. Being in Key West, had a nice slice of key lime pie. I found Kermit's Key Lime Pie Shop, the owner originally from West Virginia.
Of course.
He came up with the idea to take a slice, put it on a stick, and dip it in chocolate.
Oh.
Pure deliciousness. Always a West Virginia connection. Caleb on the edge of the gorge in Fayetteville. P.S. Charles Wesley Godwin is touring with Zach Bryan, not Luke Bryan. He's much better and plays real country music. Yes, you're correct. And thank you, Caleb. I made that mistake. I said Luke. It was Zach. I texted Charles that day and apologized. And he said, no problem.
By the way, I don't think really good key lime pie needs anything else.
Excuse me?
I just think you go with key lime pie. I don't think you need to add chocolate, which is this powerful taste. I just think you go key lime pie straight. I wouldn't want, like, if I was someplace and they said, we have this homemade key lime pie and we have homemade key lime pie dipped in chocolate, I would say, I just want the key lime pie.
Okay.
Alternative perspective. I don't necessarily love key lime pie. I wouldn't eat a piece of key lime pie by itself.
You would not.
You dip that bad boy in chocolate? Okay, you got my attention now.
Got a lot of nice things going on there, Hoppy. You got that chocolate plus that tanginess from that lime.
Yeah.
Might have something there. Texter. Mac, formerly
Make it
from
a world go around. Disagreements.
Mac, formerly from McDowell County. Scope, spreads, and triple hops brewed. On a recent vacation to the Bahamas, my family and I were on an excursion boat, dozens of other tourists. When what played over the speakers? Why, none other than Sweet Caroline. My wife instantly begged me not to do it. Couldn't help myself. Like any good Mountaineer fan, during the chorus, I sang my part.
Yeah.
I immediately look around in anticipation of high fives and fist bumps, only to see a boat full of confused looks and my wife's daughter and my daughter's embarrassed faces. I learned a hard lesson that day that maybe there isn't always a West Virginia connection.
That's a good one.
Very good, Matt.
That's a good one.
Behave yourself. Texter. Last year, I texted you with the observation about West Virginia's success when the quarterback's last name is a color. Pat White, This year, name observation is as follows. We're excited about the return of phenom C.J. Donaldson. A lot of hype around freshman running back D.J. Oliver. A lot of buzz over the speed of E.J. Horton. And looking on the roster, I also see we've got a kicker named R.J. and a tight end named T.J. I expect all of the initials to be impact players by year's end. Thanks, good. Looking forward to a great season. Signed Reed from New Jersey.
Have you worked up any pet names or nicknames yet for any of the players? You don't do that, though, very much, do you?
Not yet.
You've done a couple over the years.
Well, I mean, I've made some unbelievable ones, to be quite honest with you.
Oh, such as?
The Istanbul for Deniz Kalichla.
Oh, yeah.
And the West Express for Wes Hours.
Yeah.
Those are pretty good.
Yeah, that is.
But I normally don't sit around at night trying to figure out. They just kind of come like heat of the moment type thing.
Plus, that's like you sprinkle that. You don't want.
Yeah, you don't want to live off that.
Yeah.
Then you become just a big cartoon.
Yeah.
Big cartoon character. run around like Fozzie Bear. Texter, ciao amici. I need a little help. We're flying down to Orlando in October for the Central Florida football game against our world champion Mountaineers. Is anyone driving down? If so, can they bring some Kirchhoff down here for me? Y'all are the best. Dino in Morgantown.
Jeez.
That'd be a great promotion on our part if we were able to get like a van and get someone to drive the van, just load the living heck out of it with cans of Kirchhoff and do a little video series as the person drives down and arrives in Orlando, and they're going to bring it to a bar that's got a West Virginia person that's running the bar, and here it is, Kirchhoff for everybody. He could sell it there, right? Can you do that?
Can you?
I don't know, these stupid rules. Just stupid rules. I don't know.
A lot of rules.
We wouldn't want anybody to lose their liquor license
not.
in Florida.
Down in Florida,
We could drive it to a
home
tailgate.
Yeah, you can just absolutely do
Party.
it then.
I think
By
we
the
have
way-
an idea in embryo.
By the way, a couple episodes ago, I may have brought up why don't we do a food court over near Fine Looking Phil's?
Stop.
I heard that's taken a few steps forward.
Stop. It's so far from being a real thing. Why do you do that?
It's happening.
There's a lot of things that have to happen before it happens.
We're making great
really?
We're making great progress.
Wait a minute. So you say
Stop
you're making
talking.
progress, but
why
Brad
do you do that? You know the microphones are on.
Yeah, I know that. Three Guys Food
why are you
Court.
reluctant, Brad?
Because it's not done.
Well, why
There's
do you
a
always-
million. The checklist is like 4 pages long.
Why does
There's a lot
everything-
of things that might not come to fruition.
Why does everything
Some
have
other
to be
things
done?
popped up this week. A lot of rules.
See, that's that
A
classic.
lot of rules pop up.
That's that classic university mentality that still is in your soul, that you guys get so freaking nervous to say everything. Have they signed off? Has downtown signed off? Has the Coliseum signed off? Has the football stadium signed off? Does the Grand Chancellor of the Provost of the Pooh Bar's office, has environmental control signed off? I don't care who signed off. We're going to do a food court.
Says the guy that's been killing presidents for making these decisions to jump conferences without thinking about it. That's typical him. He missed the entire meeting the other day, Hop. He didn't even show up to the meeting where some of these logistics were discussed. Just totally missed it.
He's an idea guy.
And the adults in the room had to show up with some things that you may need to run through some attorneys and you may need to ask some questions.
So
Instead of the guy that just bloviates stuff before it's time to bloviate
So
stuff.
are you confirming that there was a meeting?
There was a meeting. I'm saying it's not
And it's a
confirmed
go.
yet.
It's a go.
It's
Here we
not a
go.
go.
Here we go. Three Guys Food Court near Phil's. Fine Looking Phil's.
I mean, what? Food's coming. How do you sell beer? Can you sell beer? Do you got to get
Sure you
9
can.
licenses from the ABCD,
Yeah, really.
AEFG organization?
yeah, that's
I'm sure those
Do
good
those
people.
cost $10,000? I mean, how much? Well, there's a lot of stuff.
I'm
He's
sure
just over
those-
here just running his yap.
I'm sure those good people down in Charleston at those state offices are Three Guys listeners. They'll probably do whatever they need to do to make sure that it happens.
Very well may be the case. So why don't we wait until all that's done before you say anything?
Because I want our folks to know that there's going to be something to look forward to.
Move on.
Ted from Colorado. I texted.
I think I'm on both sides here. I see. I like the energy, but also I like getting it right. So you're not just showing up with trucks, and just people getting cuffed.
You have
and
1,000
stuffed.
people are going to walk by here looking for food in Kirchaville. It's not there.
Well, that's going to be nice.
It's a 4-pack just sitting on the ground because that's all we could get approved. First person there gets the 4-pack. There's our food court. Because Skippy over here just wants to say go, and then he won't be around.
No, he
While
won't.
doing my charts, couldn't be there.
Ted
Go
from,
ahead.
Ted from Colorado writes, a texter took a shot at Brad on Sportsline.
Oh,
The texter said he was not a true West Virginian. Born in Wyoming County, spent my entire working career in West Virginia, and I want to defend Brad and declare him a true Mountaineer.
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate
so
that.
you're not from here.
Got here as fast as I could.
Yeah,
Howie.
that's.
Yeah.
We could use more people moving here.
Yeah, probably.
You know that?
Yeah, probably can.
Yeah, that's always a
Population-
big thing on your show, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have our population. Our population has been in a gradual decline since 1950. Okay, we peaked about 1960 of 2 million, are now at like 1.78, something like that.
Right.
We need people to move here.
Yeah, so I did. I entered the transfer
Yes.
portal when I was at
I know,
Maryland.
you transferred and you stayed.
Transferred in and then stayed.
Stayed.
I didn't just take the money. It wasn't just a money grab and stay. I just stayed here for 30 years.
Yeah.
Plus and counting. Thank you, Ted, from Colorado.
Hey, Three Guys, I believe I've got a solution, although far-fetched, to the current conference realignment. Use a similar system to English football. All BCS conference champs make the playoffs. No team with more than 2 losses can make the playoffs. The 3 best records from the non-Power 5 get promoted. Worst 3 records get relegated. Example, Marshall goes undefeated and is the only undefeated school in the non-Power 5. Rutgers has the worst record in the Power 5. Next year, Rutger is in the Sun Belt. Marshall's in the Big Ten. Marshall would probably bring more eyeballs than Rutger to the Big Ten anyway. Signed by Frank
Rutgers.
Clarksburg. Rutgers. Hello. Texter, Charlie from Midlothian, Scope, Spreads, and Bellboy. We'll keep it short. I liked your opening comment to the last text. Where's he been? Honored that you missed me. Happy that I have the first showing of the Efforting t-shirt. Insert tongue click. You guys are the best. There he is.
That's
a
the
guy
picture
still
from last week, isn't
yeah,
it?
well, it is, but I mean, that's the guy. He was happy we mentioned
Efforting.
him. Guy runs about 3 tanker trucks of fuel out of one Kroger cart out of there, fills up everyone in his neighborhood.
I mean, if any more attention on this, somebody for like Kroger, Kroger's going to show up.
We have high-level people that listen.
Yeah.
Maybe not
From the
current
Kroger
employees.
Well, hell, I tell you what should happen probably.
Significant context. They're listeners to the program.
Might be nice if Kroger buys a sponsorship instead of us giving them free sponsorship, right?
Well, they're just trying to figure out why they're losing money on the gas deal. What's going on? Why is there?
Would that be great if, like, the undercover Kroger cops one day cuff and stuff Charlie?
No.
We got what you're doing here, Charlie. Move it over. Put your hands behind your back.
All right, Bob.
I mean, we're gonna put you in the Frito aisle for a month. Texter, female texter, Gail in Martinsburg.
It usually doesn't go well.
Hello. Now that we're double-digit days into August, as we know, summer truly is over.
Yes.
Even though it was really over in June, according to one member of your panel.
Mm-hmm.
Despite this sad fact, I am cheered by 2 things. 1, anticipation of Mountaineer football this year, and 2, the news report that Buc-ee's has applied to open a new store in Virginia. Still might have a ways to go to get beaver nuggets, but at least not to Texas. I love you 3 goofballs, and I love the show. Gail in Martinsburg.
Where's the Buc-ee's
Thank
coming?
you, Gail.
Somewhere in Virginia, apparently. Texter, hey guys, Justin from Lawrenceville, New Jersey. My family and I are in Bar Harbor, Acadia National Park this week. I'm walking through the hotel parking lot. I see a dude in a flying WV t-shirt. Of course, I politely call out, let's go. And he says, Mountaineers. He and his family were visiting from western Pennsylvania. The next day at a resorts pool, a beautiful woman approaches me and says, nice hat, to my WVU cap. Her and her husband graduated a few years before me and a native of Morgantown. Always a West Virginia connection, except on that Bahamian boat.
Fishing
There wasn't
excursion.
one there, yeah.
Not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. To football, do you think we will be making a trip to Tempe or Tucson now that they're in the league? My dad's entire family lives in Phoenix. Lots of Sun Devil alums. Would be an awesome trip. Thanks, and keep up the good work. There's their food up there in Maine.
Oh, is that a lobster tail?
Clarified butter.
Crab?
Got some
Lobster?
potatoes, little rosemary seasoning. Got corn cob there, and they got big old lobster.
Tony, I was up there once in
Broccoli
that
on
neck
the
of the
bottom.
woods. You would like this. And it went to a lobster place there on the bay, and you get 2 lobsters, and my wife only one. I ate 3 lobsters. I mean, I ate 3 lobsters, just kept eating.
Awesome.
Killed it.
Yeah. My oldest, he goes up there every year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, for a month.
What now?
Yeah, Big Mike. He goes up there for a month.
What do you mean a month?
He goes and stays there for a month.
Like his family goes and they.
The in-laws have a house there, a place called Kenny Bunkport. You ever heard of that?
I think I have.
Yeah. So they go up there and they just lay around for a month.
A month?
A month. And they do lobster rolls. And they say
Yeah.
these lobster rolls are just like off the chart.
Nice.
It's a good setup.
Yeah,
Pretty
a month.
nice. Yeah, pretty nice. Yeah. Texter, hey, 3 guys. What do you think is preventing the separation of college football from the rest of the NC2A? I would think making its own entity with its own rules, which they're already doing, would allow them to do what they want without compromising other athletic programs. Do you think we could return to regional conferences, non-revenue sports, and let football, basketball do their own thing? Thanks for all you do. Signed by Logan in Morgantown. No, because what you're saying makes sense. Too much logic and rational thought into what you're saying. Money controls.
Those schools probably aren't going to follow the new rules they create anyway, so what's that matter?
Yeah. Texter.
What a massive undertaking. Go see what I always say. Trying to get everybody on the same page to make those decisions to get it done. Good luck.
Texter. Choose between the following loss combinations. Both produce the result of a 6-6 season. What? See, I just copy and paste these. I don't read these. These make my head hurt. All right, option 1. Here's your 6-6 season. You beat Penn State, Tech, TCU, Houston, Central Florida, and Oklahoma. Includes 3-game losing streak in the front half of the schedule. Lost to Dana. Yeah, pretty good, but contains a victory over Pitt. Option 2. You beat Pitt, TCU, Central Florida, BYU, Oklahoma, and Baylor. features an upset over Penn State to start the year, but a painful loss scattered throughout the remainder of the schedule. What do you want?
That kind of makes my head hurt. I can't figure all that out. But I would say this. I am not going to count. You know how I had I didn't count like the first season and didn't count the second season and all that. I'm not going to count the Penn State game.
Excuse me?
I'm not going to count the Penn State game. I just think I'm putting that in a category of scheduling, just a very, very bad scheduling decision. Should not be opening with Penn State on the road and play 2 Power Fives in the non-conference schedule. I'm not counting Penn State.
Okay. I saw the son of the last quarterback that won at Penn State just yesterday.
We never won at Penn State.
Yeah, Fred Wyatt. That group.
Oh, 55, 56 somewhere.
Yeah. That group beat Penn State 3 years in a row and won it. The last team to win at State College, mid-1950s. There's a lot of West Virginia teams that took the trip up to Happy Valley since 55, 56, and came home with the goose egg.
I made a couple of those.
So Hostetler. Jeff, did he go back up to Penn State? So he played for West Virginia 82. So that 83 he played at State College.
He lost twice.
Yeah. 83.
82, 83.
Correct. He lost 82, 83, and Kevin White beat Penn State in 84. So we were up there on odd years.
Pat Randolph around the right side. On the block by Scott Barrows.
Yes, exactly. Dave DeJarnett also had a nice pull block on that as well.
Done. Because it was a big deal about Jeff Hostetler going back to State College.
Sure. So that would be 83. Yeah, 83.
Yeah,
83. Yeah. Anyway, point is, Major Harris went up there and lost. Bunch of quarterbacks have gone up there and lost. Yeah. Texter.
Hello!
Travis from Las Vegas via Polka. I'm watching the Dan Patrick show this morning. I noticed on the opening segment, Dan's wearing an efforting T-shirt.
What?
My question is, did he purchase this from Three Guys' website, or did he steal the idea and make it his own? Just trying to figure out who had it first. Sorry for bad picture quality. I had a screenshot from my video. No,
Brad, what's that all about?
He had it first. As we've said multiple times on the show, he's the godfather of the phrase.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's
that's
the godfather.
him. Yeah, that's those guys there. We did nothing but steal that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
yeah, that's him.
Is that why he's suing us?
We've made other things on this program that are naturally, like, for example, you've seen the smiley face around. That was Three Guys. The label on Coca-Cola's cans. Yeah, we created that too.
S blank 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 happens.
Yeah, right.
It's ours.
LOL. We created that. I mean, just
no. Kirchevale though is
yes. Kirch.
By the way, I saw Dave the other day. He came in.
Excuse me,
Dave.
Our Dave.
How'd
the conversation go?
He had just driven in from somewhere, obviously.
Sure, he drives a lot. Did you chastise again and attack him for not having a home?
It's just an interesting relationship.
He's our guy. Hey, was Dave at your meeting there over at Phil's about the food court?
He was.
Yeah, he makes things happen.
He does do that.
That guy makes things happen. So food court. So I guess if we've established anything, that we maybe rename this show Food Court Done Deal. You want to go?
What's holding it up?
Brad.
About 6,000 rules.
What about the old days where you just get a bunch of people together and just have a good big time? Can't do that anymore nowadays. Just can't go.
Tony's going with the apologize later approach.
Brad still suffers from
PTSD from the university days.
PTUD, post-traumatic university disorder. How many times did you get called on the carpet, like when you were at the university, for doing something and trying to ask for forgiveness later? Did you ever
really one? Because I follow rules.
Yeah. Do you give me like an overview?
I think I would have been a good compliance /
Yeah, you would have been.
What was the situation that got you in trouble? What was the situation?
I had one situation late it was touch and go.
Did the folks downtown, did they have a problem?
The one time we tried to step out and go a little bit before all sign-offs happened. It did not go well.
That's one thing we learned here working with Dale Miller for years and years.
Do it.
It's like, do it. And then we'll do this and this and this and add on this. Oh, okay. Well, we'll apologize.
Yeah, that was the best. Yeah, that was Dale's like, piss on it. Do it.
That's what you have lawyers for.
Well, that's why you have private sector, public sector, two different things. Private sector, you just gotta do stuff.
But the lawyers, well,
Yeah,
I'll stop there.
Three guys before the game, brought to us by the wonderful folks at Lou Wendell Marine Sales in St. Albans. They sell family fun. The very same thing that Brad always tries to squash, family fun. Visit Lou Wendell Marine Sales.
Someone's got to watch the details. Do they not?
Well, that is true.
Right?
That's true, yes. Otherwise, like you say, it's a 4-pack of Kirchhoffville sitting on a dusty parking lot.
Good. And when it comes to that, he's going to be sitting there with it, handing it out. That'll be his.
Visit LouWendellMarineSales.com. Three guys before the game, brought to us by Comax Business Systems, keeping West Virginia's business data safe, secure, and efficient for 25 years. Don't get your stuff busted into. Go to ComaxWV.com. GoMart, sign up now for the Mountaineer Man Trip and a whole lot more. Get your rewards card. Save money. Visit GoMart.com. And by the Burdett Camping Center right now, $3,000 under invoice on all their 2022 fifth wheels. Check them out at BurdettCamping.com. All right, we'll be back next week.
What day?
Probably Monday, probably. Probably Monday. We'll have Saturday scrimmage.
Oh, what time is that? Can I go?
You can't go. It's at night. It's under the lights and it's closed. Maybe you can push your face into the fence and try to steer it. Is that Garrett there? Is that Nico? Who threw that one? Get some of
Really? You
that.
can't go?
No, it's closed. Closed. Tomorrow's open
What time?
during your show.
Oh.
Why don't you miss your show? Go over to practice.
I can't do that. I have a responsibility.
There was a line there. I'm not going there.
Okay.
Yeah. He has a responsibility until he wants to go somewhere else. I heard that from my wife all the time.
What? Yeah.
When the kids were growing up, no, I can't miss sports line, can't miss sports line. No, I can't. No, it's sports line. Now, yeah, I can do that. All right, see y'all. Special thank you to Jumpin' Jack Carlson, our producer, and Ben Lohman for graphical interfacing. We're good. See you.